What up, guys? I'm LQ. This is the LQ Review. Thank you so much for being here at my YouTube channel. This is where I talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that I love to talk about. Movies, video games, comic books, TV shows. Talk about a lot of stuff here. And today I want to talk about The Call of the Wild. So I took my son to see it last night. And it's the adaptation of the Jack London novel. And I haven't read that novel since high school. I kind of remembered most of the beats of it. For the most part, this movie didn't disappoint. Now, there was some stuff I didn't like. Let's talk about that stuff first. It was a CGI dog. The dog, throughout the whole entirety of the movie, was clearly CGI. There were parts of it that actually felt like it was a cartoon. They gave very human characteristics to this dog, like emotionally. Gave it some very human characteristics. And, a lot of people didn't like The Lion King because The Lion King, it looked like animals. It didn't have it didn't emote the same human emotions because they legitimately look like animals. I liked The Lion King for that fact. And that's why I disliked the way that they presented Buck in this movie, because he emoted human emotions. And I realize dogs have emotions, blah, blah, blah. I'm a dog owner myself. But the way that dogs convey those emotions are different than the way that humans convey those emotions. And in this movie, a lot of times, Buck was conveying emotions through human expression. And that just kind of took me out of the movie, because everything else about this movie is set in a very harsh, very realistic world. So when you got a dog that's conveying emotions like a human would, that takes me out of the movie. That makes the movie less credible to me when it wants me to believe that these characters are in mortal danger. So it was something that I didn't like. And like I said, it took me out of the movie several times. But overall, I liked this movie because it was an adventure. It was an adventure movie. And we don't get enough adventure movies in this vein. Usually in our adventure movies today, they're after something supernatural, or they're after something that puts them at world-changing peril. Either we succeed or the world is gonna be changed for the worse. But if we do succeed, the world is gonna be saved. Most of our adventure movies have those really high stakes, and this movie just doesn't have those high stakes. And I like that. This really brought me back to like the classic Disney movies, like The Old Yeller, Savage Sam, movies like that. Those are the first two that come to mind because they're dog movies. But there's lots of those old Disney movies like that I would compare this to, where the stakes aren't necessarily high, but they are high for the individuals. And in this case, they're high for Harrison Ford's Thornton and Buck, the dog. And each one of them are on a different journey. The dog is on a journey to find its home. It's listening to that call of the wild. Thornton's on his journey to escape his home, to escape the tragedy that he's had in his life, and ultimately coming to terms with that tragedy. So from that approach, I really like this movie a lot. The stakes weren't high on a worldwide scale, but they were incredibly high on a personal level. And that was something that I like I said, I just feel like we don't get enough movies like that today. Harrison Ford knocked it out of the park. He's obviously, approaching 80 now. He can be picky about which roles he decides to take, obviously, clearly. And there has been roles that he's been in the last decade or so that I felt like he's just kind of phoned it in. This is not one of those roles. I feel like he was really into this role, and I felt like this role meant something to him. Now, part of that helps. Part of it probably helps for somebody like Harrison Ford that this is a classical piece of literature. It's an adaptation of a classical piece of literature. But I could tell that his heart was really in this role, because we got a really good performance out of him here, and it was heartfelt, and it was full of compassion and full of empathy and full of sadness. Really, just a sad character. Not like a sad character like, that's a sad individual, but like a sad character like he's emoting the sadness that he has from the tragedies in his past. So yeah, Harrison Ford knocked this one out of the park. So this isn't a perfect movie. The CGI pulled me out of it some. I would have liked more Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford really doesn't come in as a main player in the movie till we're about halfway through the movie. Now he pops up a little bit in the first half, here and there, but he is not the main star until we're about halfway through the movie. And when we're about halfway through the movie, he becomes integral to the life of this dog because it's the dog's story. So we don't. I was a little surprised by how little we got of Harrison Ford in this movie. But when he was there, he knocked out of the park. So, like I said, not a perfect movie. The CGI took me out of it a little bit. But overall, this is a very well done, very heartfelt movie that definitely was a different kind of movie than what we normally get today. So, yeah, I would give this movie a solid B. A solid B for Call of the Wild. I enjoyed it. There was some stuff that I would change. I would have rather them use the real dog, but it was a solid B for me. So have you seen Call of the Wild? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I put out a lot of content. Want to make sure that you're up to date with what I'm doing. And as always, thank you for being here at the LQ Review, where we get to talk about all the geeky, nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. And until next time, we'll see you later.